One of the things that we were taught as children is to say thank you if someone did something for you and to say I'm sorry if we made a mistake or wronged someone. So why then do we have so many poorly trained adults? Why do so many adults find it hard to say I'm sorry or even thank you enough? Well, a new paper from Carnegie Mellon University, a paper sent to me by HPF alumni Sean Chaudhry, done by his sister, thank you Sean, and Shireen. The paper introduces a framework to explain what is called the responsibility exchange theory. It is used to explain why thanking and apologizing, as well as bragging and blaming, matter so much and why we have such a hard time exchanging the right words at the right time. Here's the conundrum. While thank you and I'm sorry makes the speaker appear caring or generous, and I'd add not raised in a barn by barbarians, they fear it is at the cost of seeming incompetent or weak. Then there is the opposite falsely held belief that bragging and blaming bolsters the speaker's perceived competence and status, but at the cost of seeming selfish or inconsiderate, and I'd add douchey. It costs nothing to say thank you and I'm sorry. Actually, it costs nothing. But to the emotionally unintelligent ego, it costs you everything. You see, the ego is in constant collection and hoarding mode of what's called ego chips. It tries to collect and hoard chips like Imelda Marcos collected and hoarded shoes. Saying thank you or I'm sorry is like having to hand over a chip, or in Imelda's case, a pair of shoes. To the ego, social exchanges are a zero-sum game. Win, lose. Which is also why the egomaniac is also so hell-bent on bragging and also assigning blame. Bragging is their childish and foolhardy attempt at trying to collect ego chips from you and your attention. And if there is a wrongdoing, they are quick to finger point so that you don't come after their chip pile. Do you see how infantile this behavior is? I can see you sitting there bobbing your head up and down. But this is exactly how most people operate day in and day out. The bragging is off the charts these days. I mean, it is truly insane. People are spending most of their day broadcasting their blatant narcissism via social media, text messages with friends, in meetings with clients, and in most every common conversation with acquaintances or even strangers that you meet at the coffee shop or at your kid's soccer game. People spend their whole day desperately trying to collect and preserve their ego chips. The real insanity of this is they think they are gaining chips, but in the eyes of the receiver, they're actually losing them. No one likes a braggart, and everyone knows when you are bragging. Humble brag or not. Every time you brag, you are losing chips in the eyes of the receiver. And then there is blame. According to most everyone else, they are never the one at fault. I mean, like never. Sure, they showed up unorganized and unprepared, but it was because their kids had a meltdown this morning, or the morning commute was terrible. Sure, they missed their sales numbers, but it was because the big account that was coming in this week lost their funding unexpectedly. Sure, they promised themselves that they'd work out 3 times this week, but a crisis at work caused them to have to stay late. To admit responsibility would cost the ego a chip, and the ego protects its chips at all costs. And once again, the insanity of this is every time you blame instead of take ownership, you lose a chip in the eyes of everybody else. Look, I've played this game this way most of my life too. That is until I grew into my emotional intelligence and I saw how the exchange actually works. The emotionally intelligent person realizes it is not a zero-sum game. In fact, when you give a chip, you don't lose that chip. Instead, 2 chips appears in its place. That is why I say thank you and I'm sorry as much as I can. It doesn't cost me a chip to do so. In fact, every time I give one of those chips away, I get 2 back from the receiver. It is why I take responsibility and never blame. When I pay the chip, I get 2 replaced from the perspective of the parties involved. That is why I don't brag either. Besides 2 to 3 really close friends, I don't ever talk about what is going on in my personal life or discuss my current achievements with them. To do so wouldn't be earning any chips. It would be costing me them from the eyes of those that I was doing my chest beating in front of. Do you see how this works now? And do you see how the ego has been playing it backwards? when the ego thought it was losing a chip or gaining a chip, the opposite was happening. This is how many people end up socially bankrupt. Hopefully, after today's Darren Daily, you know how the game actually works. To multiply your chips, all you have to do is give chips out. For every chip you give, 2 comes back. It's amazing. Now, knowing this, how many chips are you going to give away today? How many times can you say thank you? How many times can you say I'm sorry today? Every one of those will multiply your chips. Write that down in your Darren Daily Journal. The goal for how many times you're going to say I'm sorry or thank you. And then tell us what your goal number is in the comments below. And for crying out loud, don't let chips just pour out of your pockets by continuing to be a blowhard and denying responsibility for your part in every situation that you are confronted with. It's like spending chips on cotton candy. It seems like a good idea at the time. It looks impressive, but it will only leave you with a bloated belly, regret, and social diabetes. And you look ridiculous as you eat it as well. Hey,